Welcome in, Believe in Commanders podcast, part of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by FanDuel. Number 13, Anthony Armstrong, right over there. Scott Jackson here with you. Please like, comment, and follow us. And it is day one in the books, Anthony, of Commanders training camp. And I was thinking about when you were playing for the Redskins, you know, what it must have been like to get that morning practice in. But then it hit me, well, he still had an afternoon practice because they used to do two-a-days, these barbarians back in Anthony's day.
Yeah, back on the field twice a day. You take your shoes off, put on some slippers, Scott, then you wait another couple hours and you're back out there again to get another one. I will say, when I first got in the league down there in Miami, we had some two-a-days, man. At least Tony Sperano and crew, they were nice enough to put us in the bubble for that second practice.
Right.
But, man, it wasn't always that way. Sometimes they would flip it. That South Florida rain would come through about 1:30. It would be a humid mess in that second practice. But it made us better, right? It made us better.
Right.
But they don't have those two-a-days anymore, man. These guys have it easy. But, man, I would love to be out there running around. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it looks like a lot of red zone work today from the Commanders. That was the challenge, the competition, as Dan Quinn likes to put it, for these guys today. And day one in the books. And I want to start here before we even get into, you know, the who won, who lost, this kind of stuff that people are reporting on today. But it looks like healthy, right? Like there was no stories of anybody being carted or, you know, tangled up, because that's not the case around the NFL here in this first few weeks, man, which is terrifying. I mean, we've seen it in Carolina. See, Shamar Stewart had a really scary looking injury today in Cincinnati. You know, hope the best for him, but does not look good. Just looking at the video made me my stomach turn. So you just hope and pray, man, for these guys to have a healthy camp, because these things can happen, as you know, and you don't even have to be contacted for these things to happen.
Man, all the work and you feel like one step and then it's just all gone. You know, I've been there. My shoulder, this one on the right that I'm wiggling. If you're looking on the YouTube, it's got a little funny bump in there. That's because I had a grade 2 AC separation. Oof. Right in training camp of 2012. That basically took me out of the running to being on that squad. And you don't want to have injuries in training camp, man. You work so hard and you put everything into this moment to be on that roster at the end of that 53 when it's all said and done, and injuries can take you off the rails there, right? But shoot, especially off of last season, I want every practice to start out. Yeah. Everybody's healthy, nobody's hurt, and let the questions begin.
Exactly. Well, look, defense, according to most of the beat guys out there today, probably won the day over the offense, which isn't a big surprise, right? Isn't it supposed to be defense is ahead of the offense? But I'll ask you, being an offensive guy, like how many days into camp, if you're on the losing end and you're going back in the locker room, you're saying to yourself, crap, I hope our defense is really this good and it's not the other way around. Like, when does it start like weighing on you as the competitor?
Man, I would say if you really haven't gotten any get back, I would say at least a couple practices. If it gets to be like about 2-3 days in a row, I'm worrying, right? We're like, hey, offense, what the hell, man? We cannot go out here and continue to get punched in the nose like this. And this ain't no disrespect to your teammates. You want them to play at a high level, but daggone, you do not want to sit there and get beat every single day, because then they start to feeling themselves, Scott. They start to feel themselves, and defense does that early in camp because a couple of things are in their favor. Number one, just speed. They can just run fast. They don't have to worry about breaking down to be in position to make a tackle. They don't have to worry about getting crack blocked. But when them pads come on, you think the defense is ready for contact. A lot of time it's the offense that's ready to actually give some payback. But I love to see a little give and take, right? Give me a defensive day, especially right now in the red zone. Short area. They don't have to drop back but 15 yards if you're playing it from the 5. They can kind of cover more space without moving around a lot. So it's going to be a good battle right there. But those are also the days that you can piss them off, Scott. Oh, I remember once I caught a pass in the back of the end zone, 2 feet down. Bruce Allen was calling me in. I ran into the woods up there at Redskins Park. I was so excited. A deer ran out. A turkey came out of there. And here comes Armstrong signaling touchdown. Oh, baby. Red zone. Love them competition periods. And Dan Quinn's going to have a lot of them.
Yeah, as we said, he's got this whole thing set up to hit one out every day. So that's where they started today. Again, it was, according to a lot of the folks there, it was, uneven for the offense, Jaden Daniels, but they did have some moments. Big Traylon Burks caught one in the back of the end zone, using that to high point football play that you would expect to see from him. A lot of good words out there about Antonio Williams' work today, too, the rookie out of Clemson. So that's certainly a positive as everybody gets hyperly stressed out over who's wide receiver 2, who's WR2 on this offense. So that was good to see. You know, obviously they're going to have their days too, right? Like some days going to be set up for, you know, if who gets more reps of the ones, who's going to get, you know, targeted more. So I don't know if I'd really keep stats on this right now until we get into some games against other teams, but it is certainly interesting to keep our eyes on, ears on.
I know the easiest way to break it down, if you're out there and if you're just trying to watch, just who's making a play every day, who's showing up at some point. It could be a big block. It could be, you know, a lot of effort that you're seeing them fly around, a big catch down the field. Sometimes that one play is all you need to get in the good graces of the coaches, to get yourself on a stride, to build the confidence with your quarterback, right? I mean, you have 11 receivers right now. You mentioned, you know, Traylon Burks making a big catch, and I've been going back and thinking about how David Blau says it's like building a basketball team, Scott. You want to have different body types. There's a guy out there, Jaden Bradley, right? He's a 6'4", 6'5" receiver. That's a body type that they don't have a lot of. Is he going to be a guy that can make a push and make a play every day? It's exciting, right? And you also got to put in a little extra work from time to time to help yourself ascend that depth chart if you need to.
Absolutely. So I'll ask you, it's like at what point, you know, when you're stacking days as a guy who is is the roster hopeful position, do you notice, okay, now I'm getting a little bit more of a run and some reps here with the ones or the twos? Does that build for you too at some point in this thing? If you start stacking days where, you know, okay, they want to see me against the other ones and kind of get a more of a feel for you.
100%. You look at that script. Generally, you know, your coach may slide you, hey, here are the plays we got coming up. Know your stuff, right? You have you have 7, 8, and 9, Anthony. Make sure you know your plays, the play call, break it, where you're going to be, and you can be prepared for that. And then you start to realize that you start to see who you're going up against, right? Hey, I've matched up against, older corner or younger corner, and now I'm going up against Sanders still on these plays, or you're in the huddle with a different quarterback. That's when it really started to click for me, Scott. When I first started, I was in the huddle. I honestly can't remember who the third quarterback was, but my goal was to get in the huddle with Donovan McNabb, and then eventually I was, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, there's Santana Moss. There's Joey Galloway, Clinton Portis, and then me. All right. And I'm like, I ain't going to mess this one up. I'm not going to mess up this play. So slowly but surely, you start getting handed more opportunities. They want to see how you handle that. How do you handle the pressure of being around the ones? Are you going to be the person that holds back this train from going forward, or are you actually going to add some value to it? So key to pay attention to those matchups.
Yeah, it's good to see the rookie Antonio Williams getting some opportunities there with the ones. They obviously – look, they didn't draft him not to play him, right? I mean, I think they drafted him because they thought he could come in here and make an impact. So see if he can keep taking advantage of that. And then, you know, guys behind him, you know, that have been here for a minute, like Luke McCaffrey. And, of course, last year, Jalen Lane's, you know, we know that he's a valuable punt returner, but he's still, you know, got to be able to show that he could do it when he gets his opportunities at receiver. You know, you got the wily vets. We've talked about Van Jefferson a bunch throughout the offseason that you figure you can trust. Dami Brown knows this quarterback very well, and the quarterback knows him well. So I'm not surprised to hear good things about Dami Brown on day one either. And, you know, we know that he played so well here at the end of 2 years ago that he got paid, you know, some pretty good dollars to go down there to Jacksonville.
And the beautiful part about that for Dami is that there's no state income tax in Florida. So he was able to maximize his earnings and then come back and get to play with a superior quarterback. But man, I love seeing Dami. I was looking on social media, and he was getting some work after practice, right? He was out there working on some press, getting off the line of scrimmage, being able to get back on his line. And that's going to be a big thing for him is how can he handle press? Can he get off the line of scrimmage consistently? You're talking about earlier, who's going to be the wide receiver too? I feel like it's wide open in a sense of it's going to come down to who shows up consistently. And Diami's putting a little bit of the extra work. And I think that whenever you go the extra mile, especially in these type of situations, it's going to work out well for you, right? And I think about myself when I was trying to make the team. I found ways to do a little bit extra, catch a few extra balls, do a little bit more on special teams, make myself that much more available, and it makes a positive impression. And it kind of makes me think about ZipRecruiter. They have a new feature that if you're applying for a job, let's say you're applying for wide receiver 2, and I can say, I'm Anthony Armstrong. I'm applying for wide receiver 2. Here's why I want this job. I think I can bring value because I'm going to be opposite of Terry McLaurin. I can stretch the field down the line, and I can block my tail off. That's why I want this job. And hopefully that works for DQ. But if you're applying for a job, you can do that as ZipRecruiter. That's a pretty cool thing that they have that new feature that shows you the most interested and qualified candidates the first time, so you can get the right people faster. Don't need to worry about hiring it wrong. Just get to the right person. ZipRecruiter, they have powerful matching technology that's going to find those candidates quickly. And there's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the #1 hiring site based on G2. So you can try ZipRecruiter and meet your great candidates for wide receiver 2 or any other position that you may have who's going to go the extra step and the extra mile for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So DQ, check your email, baby. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Would be something if you looked at a job board and saw wide receiver 2 as something that the team is advertising for.
That'd be one hell of a motivational tactic. Like,
yeah,
hey,
it sure
Coach,
would be.
I was checking Indeed, and you said you were looking for a long snapper. Is that true?
Yeah.
It's like, trying to mix it up a bit. You never know.
So yesterday, speaking of DQ, and he talked this morning as well, obviously, but he and Adam Peters had their, beginning of the season state of the Commanders kind of presser, and obviously a lot of questions about that wide receiver too, and ending around kind of questions about it. And as you would expect, they said, look, they're always trying to improve the roster, but right now, they're excited to see what they have and go out and compete and those type of things. But I thought Adam Peters, like he said that he's happy, like the improvement from this team from where they were a year ago. And this is, again, year 3. So a lot of people, are going to look at this a little bit more, I can say, critical, right? If it doesn't work out this year. But I mean, I think the roster as a whole, I think that is not just a guy, patting himself on the back. I think he's right. I think it is a much better roster, especially if you want to go back 2 seasons, even though they had a successful year. I think we understand a lot of that was, I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors because that sounds demeaning, but there was like a lot of that like wow, shock and awe factor, right, about that team from 2 seasons ago. But that defense that year, was kind of like hanging on each week. It was kind of a tightrope. Whereas I think this group that they have put together, and they still got to go out and do it, has got a lot more talent on the defensive side of the ball in particular.
Yeah, they're definitely improving slowly but surely. I think there was a great question that was asked is like, how far do you think you've come in building out your roster? And he handled it well. He's like, we're not quite there. Like, that ain't what you want to hear starting the season. But the fact of saying, hey, we're always trying to tinker. We're always trying to add quality players. And Rasul Douglas was a guy that came up in that he finally had a chance to meet with him. And he said, it's a big guy. It's a big corner, right? 6'2" corner, that's hopefully going to shore up one side. He's played ball. And a few of the comments AP said, he's played ball at a high level. And he's done it recently. So I think that's, a little something to pay attention to. Like, hey, who's been around, who's been on the tape that we can actually get some more recent information on. And I love seeing that. What else with DQ and how he's handling the leadership? That's what I think is big over the past couple of years, right? Because when you first come in, you bring in credibility with Bobby Wagner and a lot of big names that were actually wanting to be a part of this organization. Hadn't been this way in a long, long time. So you bring those guys in and they help bring the winning standard and how you need to approach practice. Year 2, obviously it was what it was. Now into year 3, some of those initial names that we clung to, like a Bobby Wagner, is not here. You look on the offensive side, Deebo Samuel was a leader, but he's not here. Now you're actually leaning on your guys that you built on. This is probably the most AP hands-on roster, right? Before it was like, okay, we're going to bring in some other guys that are going to help bring up our credibility, and it's going to help lay the foundation, put some seeds in the ground where it's still going to take a little while for that culture to come out. Because I feel like they have a lot of strategic leaders across the board. Samer still leads in his own way. AP mentioned Meek Robertson and how he competes. And all that does, Scott, is just elevates everybody else's play, right? If they like Meek's attention to detail and his competitiveness, other DBs have to get their game up to that, right? If that's how you're going to operate, cool. Let's bump our game up. He's leading that way. The way Terry McLaurin has led that wide receiver room is big now, right? So you have DQ is the overarching. This goes back to a book, a Nick Saban book about his coaching tree. you have Nick Saban, and then you have like sergeants, I guess, or colonels would be the next level. And those are the players at various positions that kind of lead and keep that same culture going on through the organization. I feel DQ is there with this team. There's something special about them now. They've been through the battles together. Now you've got a Frankie Louvu who's learned from Bobby Wagner. Now it's his chance to be the leader. So it's going to be fun to see. Really going to be cool to watch.
Absolutely. We're Believe in Commanders, brought to you by the Believe Network. And, of course, we are brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Believe Network, I should say. Please like, comment, and follow the podcast. We do appreciate that. And you always can reach us via the socials at Rated Armstrong for number 13, Anthony Armstrong, at Jackson Sports on the X for me as well, and at Real Jackson Sports on the Instagram. You know, Anthony keeps it the same, which is smart. I would have loved to do that, but I'm not paying anybody.
It took me years to change it, though. That's the thing. I had Mr. Armstrong 13, and then there was a tweet that came whenever we got Pierre Garçon. They said, man, Pierre should switch with Anthony, and he should take PG-13. And then I said, only if I can be Rated Armstrong, kind of with the movie theme, movie rating thing.
I like that.
I was like, ooh, I like that. Started Instagram like that, and I finally changed it. Nonetheless,
I like it.
But yeah, it's all continuous, analogous, all of them. I'm in my
either one of those.
Thesaurus. Yes.
Either one of those things. So one of the interesting notes today about, you always hear this when these guys come back, and we didn't really get to see much of this guy in the mini camp because he was sidelined a lot of it. Was Bill Croskey-Merritt. Apparently got 7 to 8 pounds of muscle, according to Dan Quinn, added. And, he had, I guess, a play in the red zone where he was able to beat Sonny Styles to the end zone, which is good. Bill showing that burst as well. But, look, if he wants to be the guy, right, the bell cow, he's probably going to need that extra padding, right? That extra strength if he's going to, kind of separate himself from that room at some point, which we think he has the talent for. But at the same time, around the league, you see it all the time. Teams tend to go committee unless you have a Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson or McCaffrey. So if it looks like at least Bill has come in with a mindset, Anthony, and the build to say, I can handle this if you guys let me get the ball.
Oh, yeah. You're showing the coaches that you've taken it serious over these past few weeks. And then I know we were getting a little cautious, I guess, because, over the summer there were just reports he wasn't practicing. You're like, well, what's going on with Bill? That doesn't bode well, but now he's showing up 8 pounds heavier muscle too, right? Stronger, hopefully less to no fumbles, right? Keep that ball security high. And then also being able to be out there a little bit longer, being able to handle the blitzing linebackers. So you run away from Sonny Styles on a route. Next play, you're going to have to stick your nose in there and block him, right? So being able to stand in there for that's going to help your play to be on the field more frequently. It's going to help David Blau have confidence to do a few more things with him. I'm excited to see that competition in that room. But the cool thing is, like, all these competitions, like any room you go to, there's something that you can lean on and say, man, this is going to be a battle to pay attention to, and how Bill separates himself against Jerome Ford or Rashad White, even Katron Allen. It's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, and don't forget Jeremy McNichols, the guy who every year we're like, can he make it?
Talk about muscles, man. That's up there. Biceps the size of a football.
Absolutely. I did see this off the field related. I know we've talked so much during the offseason about List and the lack of love for this Commanders roster, but Madden loves the Commanders a little bit more than some of these, people putting out the list, these media folks and the NFL types, because Terry McLaurin is number 9 among wide receivers of all the NFL in Madden 27. You tell me, too, that they've got Laramie Tunsil at number 10. Is that right?
Something along that. I'm going to pull up the list. I feel
like Laramie should be higher than 10, by the way.
Well, for what it's worth, starting with the linemen, Penei Sewell as a 98, Lane Johnson as a 97, Garrett Bowles over there in Denver is a 96, Trent Williams 96, Joe Thuney 96, Creed Humphrey 95, Tristan Wirfs 95, Quinn Miners over there in both Denver 95, Quentin Nelson 94. So this is all offensive linemen. It's not just
it's not just.
So he's not the 10th best tackle. He's still 94. 94 is damn good.
94 is a damn good number, yeah.
So if I'm looking at like left tackles, maybe he's like fourth out of
Fourth
them,
or
I
fifth,
think,
yeah.
out of this list. And I think that's fair.
That's about right. It's where PFF had him and some others too.
Yeah. And then Terry, Jamar and JSN are the tops at 99. Puka, Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, CD, Drake London at 92, Devontae at 92, and Terry's at 91, tied with Mike Evans. So I think that's putting some respect on it.
It is.
And they understand his value for the team. You know what I mean? So he can easily go up if the season goes the right way.
Well, that's coming off an injury-riddled season, too, for him to still be 91 speaks a lot of him. Because remember, and by the way, playing with 3 different quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was not an even season for this offense, but he was productive even down the stretch in games where he'd just be like, he could have just sat out the rest. No, he wanted to play. He was motivated to play. So that's good to see. Well, hopefully, again, continue to have a clean camp, healthy camp. We'll talk more on Friday with our next episode, and we'll be 2 days in at that point. I think the team kind of gives the guys a little bit of a break on Friday with a walkthrough, and then they'll be back at it on Saturday. So we will get into more on what we have heard about in the first few days. Maybe get one of the guys that's been up there daily as well on Friday on the show. So until then, for Anthony Armstrong, I'm Scott Jackson. Thanks for joining us here. Believe in Commanders. Brought to you by FanDuel. We are part of the Believe Network. Please like, comment, and follow. And until next time, we'll see you then.
See ya.